the sexual discussions and education is so important.
Mm-hmm.
What age, to what level of depth? I don't know. I guess that's arguable. But sex education needs to be taught to kids. And I know it seems like it gets younger that these conversations get introduced to them, but kids get molested as young as 3 months old, 6 months old. At what age do we wait to put them onto some game after they've already been assaulted?
Yeah, and parents are projecting like the age when they receive this kind of education, when these kids are exposed to way more shit at a much younger age anyway. You know, some parents think having sex ed at all in high school is ridiculous and that's horrible and encourages kids to have sex. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like these kids were having sex already. Some of these kids are knocked up in, literally as freshmen or sophomores, so.
Absolutely. Then these parents are fucking kidding themselves. Listen, I've worked in a school. I've worked with principals who've worked in inner city schools, hard schools, white schools, mixed schools. The quote unquote inner city schools have problems. Yes. But I'll tell you a story that a friend of mine who went from a quote unquote inner city, oh, how do you do it with those kids kind of school, and went over to one of those rich ass schools. This dude called me up one day and he was like, are you sitting down? Because let me tell you what my day was today at the rich school. He's like, so a student comes into my office and says, I saw a picture that I think is inappropriate and I'm not sure what to do. So the principal is like, well, let me see it. And the kid shows him the phone. It's a picture of a 14-year-old boy who's a student at the school in Vegas, in a hotel room in Vegas with two men with cum on his face, with the caption says, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
What the fuck?
That's why I'm like, I love working at inner city schools because I've come across so many smart, talented kids. Do a lot of them have problems? Yes. But guess what? Rich kid schools have problems too.
Mm.
What do you call that situation? So now this principal has to call the parent, ask them to come into the school because do you want to say that over the phone?
No.
So you need to ask the parent to come in and you need to have the conversation. And now here's what's going on in your mind. Do you call Child Protective Services?
Right.
You're supposed to. But if you do that,
did they set this up? Is that this kid's uncle? Did they?
Is this a joke? Is that
one big fucking joke? It? Right. Yeah.
Now you can send your children to school and demand that they not learn anything about sex or Black people or history, whatever it is. But you are kidding yourself if you think that by doing that, these kids are not getting exposed to all of that material.
That's a very good point. The moment you hand these kids a smartphone that doesn't have any restrictions,
all you need is one kid, one kid with one unlocked phone.
He's going to show all the shit to all his other friends.
These kids are sending dick pics around. I had to talk to my elementary school kids about sending pictures of themselves because I'm like, it's pornography. You can get arrested for that. It's child pornography.
Oh, yeah, because that doesn't cross their mind because they're thinking these are my peers. But you don't realize, motherfucker, if that shit's on your phone and these are all kids that are also your age, if they want to throw the book at you, I know you don't think there's something wrong with that.
You're not even thinking about it at all. You're just thinking, oh, I look cute. I'm sending this picture. The end.
Mm-hmm.
So at what age do we start talking to kids about this stuff? Before or after they've already sent 20 dick pics?
Before. And I know parents feel uncomfortable about it, but and all parents want to believe their kids are above average intelligence and they all want to believe their kids are just going to be perfect, innocent angels and this shit or whatever. So they're grossed out about the idea.
Right.
You're going to have to get over that.
You got to get over it because in the schools I've worked in now, I get a call from a teacher and she says to me, are you sitting down for this? Okay. So this was my day today. Student in my class crying comes up to me. I need to go to the bathroom, but she's visibly crying. So I say, well, what's wrong? And she says, well, the kids are making fun of me and calling me a slut. Okay. Well, why are they calling you that? What's going on? What's triggering this conversation? She's like, well, they're saying that I sucked so-and-so's dick in the staircase. And she says this straight. This woman is 70 years old that she's talking to.
Oh, shit.
Says it just like that. Well, they're all saying I sucked his dick in the staircase. Just like that. So the teacher goes, well, did you? She goes, well, yeah.
Damn.
So now you got to call her parents, his parents, the school counselor, the principal. Now you have a summit meeting.
Now, why do you have to call
9 people in a meeting?
Now, do you have to call these kids because this kid's sexually active at a young age, or do you have to call because this kid's sexually active with someone who's way older than them? Who's this guy in the stairwell?
11-year-old, 13-year-old.
Jesus fucking Christ.
We're not talking high school kids. So, of course, you don't tell this to the parents.
11-year-old girl.
11-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy. So now you've got two sets of parents, the principal, the counselor, the teacher, and the two kids. So you got 10 people in a meeting. And everybody's looking at each other. Who's going to start this meeting? Okay, well, principal, why are we here? There's something sensitive we need to talk to you about. Well, what is it? Well, there was inappropriate conduct between your daughter and him. What do you mean by inappropriate conduct? That there was sexual. What type of sexual? What is this teacher talking about? The father turns to the daughter. What's going on? Well, the kids were making fun of me and calling me a slut in class. Same conversation. He's like, well, why would they be calling you that? Because they said I sucked his dick. And she points to the kid who's in the meeting in the staircase. And the dad's like, well, did you? And she's like, yeah, to the dad. My friend, the teacher, is like, do you know all of us, we're sitting there trying not to laugh or cry. We're literally all like this. Oh, my God.
Right. Because he might come across the table and smack this 13-year-old boy. He might smack the 11-year-old girl. You don't know what he might do, but it's also funny in a slapstick sort of situation because you have to have the conversation over and over again.
We're not done, though.
Oh, shit.
So the father says, what? And she goes, I don't understand why everybody's so upset. I liked it.
She 11. That's when you turn to the mom and be like, you want to take this one?
Wow. Anybody want the mic? So the father says to her, stop talking to me in that baby voice when you're sucking dick in a staircase in a school. Because she had a soft voice, like, Dad, da-da-da. And that, my friend, the teacher, is like, we are trying literally not to fall off the table from this whole conversation.
That is objectively funny and also kind of a relief that he didn't just smack her.
Well, no, he couldn't because that wasn't the worst part.
Oh, Jesus. The look on your face is like, this is about to get a lot worse. Jesus fucking Christ. What the fuck, dude?
Sir, that's not the end of the story, apparently, because as the conversation unfolds, they had anal sex in the staircase. And of course, my friend, the adult, she says, we're sitting there thinking, how were you able to take that in the, so that's not your first time. Who exposed you to that? Mm. Are you guys getting sexually assaulted at home? Mm-hmm. Do we call child protective? This situation can explode.
Right. Yeah. If you do the math on that and it's like, wait a second, that shouldn't have been, you shouldn't have just been able to do that so nonchalantly and then go back to class immediately if that's your first. So therefore something else has been going on. And so holy shit. Now
where do we begin with this now? Who showed who this and who taught you that? Right? Who taught you that?
Fucking iceberg. Yeah. What the fuck?
And of course,
it was this.
Right. And my friend's like, Jesus, I wasn't able to do anything like that before I was 30 years old. So then we start laughing, right? Like, we're like she was able to take a dick in her ass in the staircase of a public school at 11 years old.
That ain't the first. That couldn't have been the first. Yeah.
So where do you begin here? Do you call Child Protective Services, which is clearly going to interrupt these families forever? Mm-hmm. Do you handle it internally? Do you let the parents? Where do you go? Where do you begin with stuff like this?
I call the police on that 13-year-old boy. And then I call Child Protective Services.
Wait, but why would you call the police on him?
Isn't that still stats regardless of how old he is?
They're both underage.
Doesn't matter. You can't have sex with an 11-year-old.
You can't.
I would call the police and then the police can be the ones to make that determination. Let me put it that way.
See, I wouldn't want to call the police. I would want to call a therapist immediately, a child therapist, child psychologist. I don't know if criminalizing the situation would help. What? So give this kid a fucking record at 13 years old? What if he's a victim?
I would like to, and you know what? So I was assuming that if he's a victim of something else, hopefully that would come out with the criminal prosecution or with the investigation. I shouldn't say prosecution, with the investigation. But I see what you mean. Yes, a therapist should probably be your first call.
Right. But I mean, and more importantly, do we want Child Protective Services getting involved with Black and brown families?
I mean, these parents have already failed their kids if your kid is 11 years old doing that. frankly.
Some say yes, some say, if at that age, what you are sexually. I mean, I find obviously the whole situation is problematic to me. But again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. At what age do you start talking to kids about this? Like, how did we get here? Right? There's so many layers to this. Like, what made you do this in the staircase of a school?
Well, y'all knew y'all wasn't going to be able to get away with doing it anywhere else.
I mean, to take that chance, it's like, where are you so emboldened? Who taught you that?
Mm-hmm.
How did all the kids know? Where were the fucking adults in the school? Right? Like,
yeah, how can that happen in a
school? You're not in a fucking igloo. You're not in a castle with 1,000 rooms and you can't hear another human because the property is 1,000. It's a school.
Mm.
Where the fuck are the adults?
Yeah, it's not like they broke in at nighttime or something. And no, this was midday in the middle of the school. They did this shit and then went right back to class.
Bro, this kid didn't climb up the side of her house and break into her bedroom. They met consensually in the staircase multiple times. I don't know if that incident occurred each time, but there was a sexual interaction between an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old multiple times at the school, and no one knew.
Nobody knew. What's the fucking point of all them cameras and shit? Nobody's reviewing this shit. Nobody noticed that homegirl just leaves at a certain time every single day, is gone for longer than she should be. Same thing with
people. So then it came out that people knew that they were always kind of around each other, these two. But I don't think anyone genuinely thought that their fascination with each other was resulting in that type of behavior. Like, boys and girls are going to like each other, right? Like, you're in the same school. It was like a K-8 school, right? So your fourth graders are going to the same school as seventh graders. Yeah, you have separate bathrooms and stuff, but I mean, you're on the same campus. You're going to rub shoulders.
Are you in sixth grade?
Yeah.
13, so I was an eighth grader.
Right.
I'm assuming. Right.
So so you're in the same sandbox for all intents and purposes. So where do you begin with this? Where were the adults at the school?
Where the fuck were the adults?
Where were the parents? Where did your children learn this from?
Where did y'all learn this shit?
Where did you learn this shit? How did you get so comfortable with this?
Yeah. Something else happened at home, because what the fuck? Did this? Yeah. In my mind, originally, I'm thinking this 13-year-old just corrupted this 11-year-old, but like something else had to happen.
It could be a victim too.
Right.
Maybe she showed him. We don't know. We don't know if he said, I want to do this, or if she said, I want you to do this to me. We don't know. We're never going to get a straight answer because they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even remember what the fuck they said. They were coming.
Wow. That is one of the most fucked up stories I have ever heard.
So which is worse? The rich kid in Vegas with the cum on his face with the two men in the room, or that? I mean, it's 6 of this, half a dozen of that. My point is that everybody's got problems. So don't think that just because you've got an American Express card and this one doesn't, somehow like the problems are like completely, unfathomable. Well, there's an overlap.
How the fuck does your kid get to Vegas by themselves? I'm assuming it had to be some kind of school thing that you thought. No, there was something that you thought they were doing. They went
with the parent. The parent did not know that the kid didn't stay in the room.
Oh, the parent like went to sleep and the kid just snuck out.
The parent took the kid with them for the weekends. I guess it was a Friday. Let's say it's a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Took the kid with them for the weekend. Said, here's money, get room service, watch some movies. I'm going to go gamble for a couple hours. I'll be back. You're 14. You're okay to be by yourself in a room. And it turns out the kid didn't stay in the room. Met 2 guys, hung out with them, took a picture, had a great time. Principal said, like, the kid was like, well, what's the problem? Like, I consented. It's not like they kidnapped me. Like, I went with them. I had a great time. You weren't supposed to see that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, those 2 dudes that scooped that kid up belong in fucking under the jail. Like, if for nothing more, like, I'm not trying to punish the kid, but I really want to know who the fuck those guys are.
I mean, is this the world that we're in?
So we can find their asses, because you're certainly not the first 14-year-old that they ran into in Vegas. Probably slipped a little bit of liquor too, and fucking yeah.
But this is what predators do, whether they're gay, straight, purple. This is what they do. They prey on young, available kids. And the sad part is that a lot of times the kids think that they've consented to this because they hung out with these guys, they partied, maybe the guys gave them money. You don't know what else was involved in the interaction. But if the interaction was a pleasant experience, it's hard to convince the child that they were a victim in that if they went willingly. I mean, you got to remember, like when I was in school a million years ago, my girlfriends and I used to sneak out of school. I went to public school. A couple of them went to Catholic school. We used to rent limousines to take us to the city for the day. And there was never a time that we went into the city that older men didn't hit on us. They never asked us our age, and we didn't look 21. My girlfriends and I, we got into clubs when we were 14, 15 years old. No ID. We didn't even have fake ID. They were letting us in.
It was just, they didn't even try to card you guys. It was like, just come on in.
Our tits were out to here and our skirts were up to here and our bodies were a 10 out of 12. We were getting in the club. So now you think that if we walk in, we hung out with guys, we kissed boys. To us, that was all consensual. Now understanding more of the psychology behind it, understanding now how young that was in hindsight, right, that you are a child in hindsight, it really speaks to how many men didn't have a problem with it. It's not like we were throwing ourselves at people and people were like, no, you're too young. Stop it when you're older. Like guys were like, come in.
Yeah.
Right. Like
they
this
were happily seeking out your presence.
This is our golden
following you all around.
Right. I mean, this is what's getting us drinks and, into there's no VIP list, into the club. We had no money.
You ain't got no money. Yeah.
We don't have any money. Our parents don't even fucking know we're here. But we didn't need any currency. We were the currency. And as far as we were concerned, it was consensual.
Yeah. And it's not until you're much older that you're like,
oh, I was 14 and that guy that kissed me was 21.
Yeah.
At the time, you think, oh my God, this 21-year-old likes me. So yeah, I'm going to kiss him.
Not even realizing, yeah, dude, this is some fucked up shit going on. This is some grooming going on. This is some fucked up power dynamics on top of that. Cause they could be like, oh, you have to do X or I'm going to tell them that you're too young to be here and have you kicked out of here.